Bipolar wife cheated and is now on her second failed marriage with a child involved. Hello, everyone. This is my first post on this forum, and I'm a little numb right now, so I'm not sure whether I've been set up or not. The first time I met my ex-girlfriend, 27F, was in 2017 when she reached out to me through Facebook. I had known her since 2010, but only knew her via common acquaintances. We spoke about her infatuation on me since high school and how she just got divorced. She wanted to know whether I was interested in going out on a date with her. I took her up on her offer, and it seemed that we had found love quite quickly, at least on the surface. It didn't take long for us to become fast friends since she had a kid from a previous marriage who was only around 2 years old at the time. The father was missing, according to her, and did not want anything to do with her. And slowly but steadily over time, I became more and more of a father figure to her, and now I am the only person she knows, and I am parenting her as if she were my own. The difficulty began when my ex informed me that she was pregnant 3 months after we began dating, despite the fact that she was apparently on birth control and had her tubes closed at the time. Her deception about using birth control led to a heated dispute, and ultimately, we chose to keep the kid and do the best we could. Despite the fact that this stood out as a significant red flag at the time, I still loved her and forgave her for the lie since I'm such a dumb. Approximately 1 year after our son's birth, which was sponsored entirely by her parents, and it was a major occasion, we moved into our marital house, which was supplied to us by her parents, and began our new life together. We paid rent, which went towards the mortgage. I became aware of how unusually my wife would react to even the simplest of things, and this caused our marriage to become a little bumpy. There were times when something would set her off, and she would storm into the bathroom with her phone, and I would have to leave her alone for hours while she cooled down. It was a nightmare for me. This was occasionally caused by my looking at her in the wrong manner, which was my fault. It was ridiculous how easily she could be triggered by anything. We had a large fight one night because she had spent all of our cash and had nothing to show for it. Not to mention no explanation as to why she had done it in the first place. She ended up slashing my palm open with a mirror shard from a mirror she shattered during the argument that night. I have never threatened her or laid my hands on her in any way, shape, or form since that night. The result of this occurrence was that we decided to take her to a psychiatrist, where she was diagnosed with bipolar II condition. Years pass, and she seems to be more stable as a result of her medicine, but she is no longer the same person. She's cold and distant, and she doesn't seem to want to go out with us like we used to, which is a shame. Was fairly consistent, once or twice a week, and I kept my mouth shut despite my repeated attempts to speak with her about how I thought she was avoiding me, to which she flatly denied there was anything wrong with me. She willingly left her job to be a stay-at-home parent, and I continued to work full-time while also caring for the children and cleaning the house on my off days as needed. Though she was far away, she would still express her affection for me and her satisfaction with our connection despite the distance between them. Things reach a boiling point 3 months ago when she begins taking a new antidepressant and begins spending our funds, leaving me at home with the kids while she goes on unusually lengthy midnight dog walks and creates disputes only to leave the house for hours at a time. She locks her phone with a new password and begins waking up in the middle of the night in order to use the restroom and text for many hours. As soon as I inquire about it, she freaks out and walks out of the room in a rage. When she discovered that I had banned every female friend I had on Facebook, I was completely faithful to her and never even looked at another woman. She moved out and I returned home to an empty house. I have no wife, no children, and a letter from my ex-wife stating that she is divorcing me because she is unhappy and has been for quite some time. Because of the squabbling around the children, which I agreed wasn't right, she tells her parents she wants a divorce, and she later tells me she wants a divorce because she is unhappy. She had a second divorce in 7 years, this time involving another kid and another soon-to-be ex-husband. Despite the fact that her parents are sad over the divorce, in her own words, I was the only guy she ever had that they loved. My daughter puts on an Oscar-worthy performance while we sign papers. There will be no alimony or child support for my son. Because I never officially adopted her, despite my intentions to do so, during which she begins crying immediately after I walk into the room and repeatedly claiming she wants to throw up. Meanwhile, I'm trying hard not to weep, but I've completely lost it and have been crying uncontrollably the whole trip home. My ex-girlfriend phoned me and said she wanted to work on herself so that she and I may perhaps reconnect later. Despite the fact that my heart had been crushed, I was trying to be hopeful and didn't want to lose her, so I consented to a reconciliation. When I pick up our children for the first visitation, I ask my daughter how her week has been, and she informs me that my ex-husband has already invited a new guy to stay at the home. We literally signed divorce papers 5 days prior. While we were still married, she informed me that this guy was coming over to my house and having sleepovers with my ex-husband while I was at work. I'm really crushed, and I feel as like I've been duped the whole time, and that I've squandered 5 years of my life with someone who never truly cared about me and was just looking for someone to back her in her endeavors. My children are already experiencing difficulties as a result of the divorce, and she has already placed her AP around them. I'm disgusted and sad at the same time. Edit. During the divorce, she behaved terribly guilty, and I believe I now understand why she did so. Regardless of who this new person is, he is still living with her, and although it isn't my business, she expressly said that the divorce was not the result of someone else, and that she really wanted me to understand that. What an absolute crock of S she is. It took 5 years for me to realize that I was being exploited by this lady, and every time she fell into a bout of hypomania or melancholy, I was there to help her pick up the pieces. Story 2. Would it be unwise for me, 22F, to date or hook up someone, 21M, who's blunt and rude sometimes? Through my buddy circle, I met a man who I ended up dating. He seemed to be pleasant enough at first, but he was a little reserved and silent until I got to know him more. His first complaints were that I talked differently and spoken as if you originate from an area with accent, which I didn't. I was going through orthodontic treatment, and it made me self-conscious and hyper-aware of how I spoke. A small female in the group expressed interest in him, and he responded by telling her he wasn't interested in, which didn't bother her since she's strong, but surprised me. His girlfriend was too affectionate, he claimed, and he wasn't into it. However, he went to an all-boys private school, and it was his first relationship, so I wonder if that's why he didn't feel affection. For her, it sounded a little strange to me, and he said the same thing to a close friend of mine, who thought it was a little strange and partly chuckled. Anyway, he's also helped me out and inquired as to my well-being when I was harassed by a man, and we get along well. When he was intoxicated, he called me a close friend and opened up about the poisonous culture at his school, including how he despised the and self-importance. In addition to his sense of humor, I like spending time with him. We've gone out to McDonald's late at night for a late-night supper and stayed up all night talking about everything. Not as much of the immediate attraction and intense tension that I generally experience with the males that interest me, but there is some. Although his prior conduct has left me perplexed, I'm not sure whether it's a red sign or if it will convert into criticism and other forms of body shaming in the future. Since then, he has gotten friendlier and more comfortable around me. He often checks in to see what I'm up to if we haven't spoken in a while. His closest buddy has asked if I'd be interested in doing anything with him, even anything casual, but I'm hesitant and skeptical. When there were no chairs at the bar and he was inebriated, he invited me to sit on his lap, which I did, but he merely kept his hand on my waist and didn't go anywhere, so I'm not sure what happened. As a result of a particularly toxic relationship, in which I was falsely accused of not being loving enough, of cheating, and of being gaslighted on a regular basis, I have lost my sense of what is normal and healthy, and I am attempting to regain my sense of self and confidence in dating and vetting in order to move on from the experience. I don't want to make the same mistake again. Thank you for your consideration and suggestions.